Good morning. It is 10 o'clock and this is the Donner County Board of Supervisors meeting this day, September 14th, 2021. Kylie, can you please take roll?
Supervisor Hemmingson,
I am here.
Supervisor Starkey,
I am here.
Supervisor Short,
I'm here.
Supervisor Berkowitz,
Here.
Chair Howard.
Here. Please join me for a moment of reflection. Thank you. Supervisor Starkey, can you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, do we have any new employees to introduce today?
Not today.
Okay, very good. Joel, any action to report out of closed section?
Yes, the board by unanimous vote assigned the case of Coombra v. County of Del Norte to Sloan Sakai and Tim Young of Sloan Sakai.
Thank you.
Chair, can I just get a clarification from council if there was a motion and a second made for that?
There was, but I don't think that we should be reporting that part out. It was unanimous vote.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, very good. Then at this time, I'd like to request any deletions, corrections, or additions from the board members to the agenda. Are there any at this time? Okay, seeing none. Let's go ahead and move into brief reports. Supervisor Starkey, can you please kick us off?
I will. Thank you very much. I'm going to report out with the U.S. Capitol Christmas tree. It's my pet project. We hit our goal of 1,000 ornaments and 10 tree skirts. We started a little mini competition between the city, the Chamber of Commerce, and the county for participating in a very informal competition. And I will have pictures of those posted soon on Facebook so the public can weigh in, but not that I'm biased. A huge shout out to the Del Norte County Parks Department, specifically Alan Windegrove and Dave Thompson, who used, and I'm going to show you now, reclaimed wood from a 1986 courthouse remodel. It's redwood. They used that to create this wooden tree skirt. It is a phenomenal. So this is going to all go together. There's 8 sections. It is breathtakingly beautiful. This will be displayed in the U.S. Capitol at one of the buildings there. We're going to ask that it be returned to Del Norte County. It's going to be a collector's item for sure. I love it so much. I want you guys to all mark your calendars for October 29th. It is going to be the time that Sugar Bear, the tree from the U.S. Capitol tree that's going to be displayed in Washington, D.C., will be here in Del Norte County. Tomorrow, there'll be a press release notifying everyone that there are only 25 cities throughout the United States that get this honor. We're the first stop. So this is a big deal. It's something exciting. We're in the works of planning a community celebration, and I want you all to save the date so that you could be there as well.
That's my birthday. Just
It
to
is.
let you know.
So it's a birthday party for Chris Howard as well.
There we go. And we won't be here.
I attended a couple of the coronavirus town halls. And while the information is out there, everybody can see it. What I want to say is how much I appreciate the collaboration between the city, the county, the healthcare district, and Sutter Hospital. It has been impressive to see. They are getting information out to the public, and it's something that we should be proud of with that collaboration. I'd like to see that continue for future situations that impact the entire county. I attended the special session along with all my colleagues. I attended an RCTA meeting, and the RCTA board decided to use some of the federal COVID relief dollars to increase the salaries of those who have been working throughout the COVID time. They have several capital improvement projects that they're going to be working on. So there is some excitement there. I attended a Region 1 COVID briefing. we had a really robust discussion about the messaging. And the messaging really has been so far, get vaccinated, get vaccinated, get vaccinated. That doesn't appear to be working in this county. So what I'm asking for them to do is to pivot somewhat, not to diminish the fact that vaccines are the safest way to survive this illness, but to provide information of if you do get COVID, how do you fight it? What are some efforts that you can do to get through it? Recently, I've been touched with 2 people close to me who have COVID, and it is necessary to work hard to make sure that they survive it. I attended a local behavioral health board meeting. Excellent information throughout this as well. We got updates on the public health orders, which there is a state mandate that by September 30th, all staff must be vaccinated or present an eligible exemption. This is a hot topic. Currently, there's about 60% of our staff who have been fully vaccinated. For now, if you're not fully vaccinated, you have to undergo testing 2 times a week or must wear a fitted surgical grade mask. So behavioral health is expressing some concerns with regard to that, but also their concerns with going into the emergency room, where oftentimes that's where the psychiatric patients are. With this huge surge in cases that we've had over the past couple of weeks, that puts them in a situation that is concerning. So we're going to follow that, work with them on that. Update on the crisis mobile unit grant. Staff was able to meet that deadline. I'm very excited about this. They have requested $187,000 and that they'll put towards a feasibility study and a consultant study. We're going to know about that tomorrow if they were accepted for that. There's been a lot of collaboration again with Sutter Hospital, and we appreciate that collaboration. They gave us an update on Wellpath, and this was great information. I know that we had a big pill to swallow when we approved that, but the staff is so extremely pleased with the results of the Wellpath so far. They met with the psychiatrist, Zach Stroud. He's engaged with the staff and the inmates. They're screening inmates right when they get in the door. So we're hoping that that will eliminate some of the need to take them for psychiatric hospitalizations later if they're getting treatment early on. I attended a city council meeting. I attended a visitor bureau meeting. Again, I get super excited about this. Our TOT totals for the final quarter of the fiscal year were up 413% over the previous 4th quarter, which I agree we are in the midst of a pandemic, but we're still up 63% from the quarter in which we weren't in a pandemic. I mean, that's just impressive numbers. Website traffic for all the fiscal year was up 157%. And just 2 months into this fiscal year, we're already up 155%. So they're doing a great job over at the Visitor Bureau, making sure that we're getting our information out there. We are finding ways to attract visitors to come to our town. I had some contact with some businesses over concerns about the legacy, and there is an agendized item on the consent calendar that I'm going to be asked to be pulled so that maybe we can incorporate some discussion into those concerns that I'm hearing from the local neighboring businesses. And that is my report.
Supervisor Starkey, I just wanted to say we were having technical difficulties and the public weren't able to see the tree skirt. So if you want to just hold those up one more time so everybody could see. Right there's fine. Thank you.
And eventually, if the public can't see too, it's going to look like this. I know it's a very small picture. But that's what it'll look like. It's just gorgeous. It's just absolutely breathtaking. So big shout out to Alan Wintergroff and Dave Thompson.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Supervisor Starkey. Supervisor Short.
Yes, since the last meeting, we dealt with the concern about the property issue, attended the trade agency meeting and heard the presentation from offshore wind, Northern Company. Offshore wind power. Did a special meeting of this board, listening on Senator McGuire's town hall as well. Attended 2 weekly COVID check-ins, again proctored by Don Analyst Operations. So we attended the Red River Coast Transit Authority meeting. listened in on the planning commission meeting, attended the local transportation commission meeting, attended North Coast CMS, MAC, and backup, that's medical advisory committee, and trauma advisory committee. Listening on the state and local officials webinar, vaccine and variants, with Dr. Lee and a special meeting on the Friday.
Thank you, Supervisor Short. Supervisor Hemmingson.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Howard. Yeah, I had several meetings, even though I was supposed to be gone a week to Montana, which I didn't get to go. So I did end up having several meetings that weren't planned for. I had a whale working group meeting with the risk assessment team, which for the Dungeness crab upcoming season. It's a little early yet, but we'll start ramping that up here shortly. I did have a NORTEC meeting, which is the Northern Rural Technical and Employment Consortium meeting. And I did attend the special meeting for the Board of Supervisors. I attended the North Deal meeting, which we discussed a lot of things. Elk Valley Crossroad and 199 came up, as well as last chance grade. Of course, that is going ongoing. The closures now being lifted and only 30 minutes is a huge deal. Also discussing turn pockets on 101 between Elk Valley Crossroad and really into Smith River. So those discussions are ongoing. I think we've made some great progress on Elk Valley and 199. Real happy to hear those talks going on, and we'll have more information as things progress. Had a local transportation commission meeting also. Had a proactive financial meeting, and that's about it for me.
Thank you, Supervisor Hemmingson. Supervisor Berkowitz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last week, I had a meeting with the interim sheriff, Sheriff Waltz. We discussed what he would like to accomplish with the department, and we discussed his goals and aspirations. This week, I attended the Lincoln Reagan dinner where I had a chance to meet with Sheriff Mark Lane, who's been affectionately known as American Sheriff. His book, American Sheriff, Traditional Values in a Modern World, is a book I recommend for everyone, not just those in law enforcement. And lastly, my wife and I took a week off for a vacation cruise in the Caribbean. We had a chance to really get involved with third world countries and what they look like and feel like. And that's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Berkowitz. Attended a meeting of the Delnart Senior Center. Also, as Supervisor Short mentioned, meetings of the tri-agency, actually 2 meetings, including the one yesterday where we discussed again and have been discussing offshore wind power. Attended the Delnart County Board of Supervisors meeting, special meeting where we discussed avenues for support of funding coming in from the federal government with our lobbyists. And in addition, attended multiple COVID briefings. And I think it's important, as everybody's on the board has pointed out, those have been a very effective tool for the county to help get out factual information about what's going on here with COVID in our community, and reflect on those that have passed and dispel misinformation and rumors that aren't factual. It's amazing to me, and I'll mention this, that there's still people in our county that believe that the trailer at Weir's Mortuary was just put there as a stunt by Senator McGuire. Those are our community members in that trailer that have passed, and we need to be respectful of that. Families have suffered. And I know we'll get through this together, but be mindful, be vigilant, and more importantly, stay on course, and we will get through this together. Attended a CSAC Board of Directors meeting, attended agenda review, and continued discussions with both CSAC and Yana Valenkovic with the UC Cooperative Extension on fire safe regulations and also grant opportunities, which will be on our agenda today, that Randy Hooper will bring to us, where we have an opportunity to bring some dollars in to maybe rejuvenate the Fire Safe Council here in Del Norte County. In addition, received some great news, and I'll highlight a bit of this as Supervisor Hemmingson touched on. Turn pockets on Highway 101 have been a huge need now for multiple years as our traffic on 101 has continued to increase. I think I've mentioned briefly that we did have movement at Timbers Way and Highway 101, which is the Dollar General location. We just heard yesterday from the California Transportation Commission that they've committed $1.9 million to funding those turn pockets at that location. So great news and great work, Transportation Commission, for helping to get that highly visible. And again, as Supervisor Hemmingson mentioned, excellent movement on 199 and Elk Valley Crossroads, and further attention being pushed up the ladder with now studies and funding opportunities that could have us a project on Elk Valley Crossroad potentially by next May. But we'll see. We'll keep pushing forward and more importantly, try to get some of those near misses and more importantly, those accidents that we continue to see there decreased. Also, as many of the board members have heard from constituents about pockets of coverage with cell towers in our community and lack of coverage. As some of our more senior board members recall our conversations from last year, there was an opportunity where a cell tower builder came to our community and placed cell towers in areas where no coverage occurred along Highway 199 last year. With Neil, we've reached out to him and asked if he would be interested in exploring some of these holes in our community, and they're very interested in doing so. So this could address some of these pockets that occur. Let's say, for instance, in the Birch Track, where there's a huge pocket right now towards Roy and where the Elk Valley new casino site's being built. In addition, along Highway 101, just between town and Elk Valley Crossroads, and in addition, out in the Fort Dick area in Smith River. Massive gaping pockets, but they're going to follow up with us and see if there's opportunities there to get some towers up. So that was exciting news for us. Happy to see some closure in committee on AB 379, as we've discussed and have written into the state legislature. It came out of appropriations with the necessary changes that really helped to support the county's case. So thank you for the efforts of the county, because without Del Norte County, this probably would have fallen on deaf ears with the entire lobbying groups that we associate with RCRC and CSAC. So I'm glad to see that our little push was effective in getting some change to occur there and support that language. Participate in the process and review of disaster council plan. That was a long overdue plan for this community. Before Kimmy Scott left us as OES manager, she made it a goal to produce this disaster council plan that helps us, more importantly, as a board, support a process here in our community to receive funding and direct how certain disasters roll out. We don't take over responsibility, but we just do coordination prior to those disasters actually occurring. I know we'll miss Miss Scott, but at the same time, we really need to do our best to try to recruit some individuals, and this is going to be a difficult task because it's not just OES that we have problems with certain salary levels. It's with every department here, and trying to attract the right individual to this community, we're finding is very difficult, whether it's OES, whether it's in community development with planners, with engineers, or other departments. So we're going to have to work on this together and really try to figure out some good solutions. Also talked with constituents in the Hyuchi area as it relates to traffic calming efforts. We tried to push these through with the Transportation Commission years ago and met a lot of resistance, but they're warming up to it now with some higher collision rates we had this summer along that 199 corridor, specifically there in Hyuchi. And if you're seeing increased activity on Ward Field, it's because we leased out Ward Field to the Forest Service to stage fire response activities this year. And It's a little bit of income for the Border Coast Regional Airport Authority, but at the same time, it's a great support location if we need to respond to fire here locally before our rainy season hits. And with that, that's the end of my report. And it looks like we'll have some time now to take up the consent agenda. We have items 1 through 13 on the consent agenda. I'd like to open it up for public comment on the consent agenda item only.
Can I pull something or do you want to wait?
I was going to wait for.
Okay.
Chair, I'm not seeing any hands raised at this time.
Okay, then we'll just go ahead and bring it back to the board. Valerie, what would you like to pull for this?
I just have a quick question on number 5. Don't necessarily need to pull it. And then I'd like to pull 10 and 11, please.
Okay,
And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pull 13. And with that, I'll make the motion to approve consent calendar 1 through 9 and 12. Is that correct?
10 and 11 need to be pulled too, right? Is that correct?
1 through 9, 12, and I'm pulling 13. So
Okay.
yeah,
Very good.
1 through 9 and 12.
And I'll second.
Well, let's answer, we have a motion second, so let's open it up for discussion on the item 5, seek clarification.
Right. It's minor, but it does say here on page 2 that the designated representative, it specifically states Eric Apperson. Given that he is no longer here, I don't know if that's going to mess up the contract at all. But it should just say the sheriff coroner of the county will administer the agreement. Is that, I just wanted to, it's probably not a big deal, but I saw it, but I'd point it out.
Thank you. Okay, we do have a motion on the table. Kylie, can you please pull the vote?
Supervisor Berkowitz,
Yes.
Supervisor Hemmingson,
Yes.
Supervisor Starkey,
Yes.
Supervisor Short,
Yes.
Chair Howard.
Yes. All right, since we do have time, let's go ahead and pick up item number 10. Supervisor Starkey.
Okay, so this is a question that I'm going to have probably for Director Snow, but my concern here is that this is an agreement for a treatment center for narcotic treatment services, which essentially is methadone. It's for outpatient services, but it's a company in Reading. My concern is that especially with methadone, you need to really monitor people's blood work. It's an outpatient, meaning that they're not going to be staying overnight. So how are people going to get this service when it's so far out? It's not even in our local area. So that's kind of my question. I don't know if our Director Snow is on.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Hi,
Well,
good morning. That's a really good question. And I would say actually that's my biggest frustration with us needing to have this contract. It is really only to satisfy our requirement from the state that we technically offer that service. So we really were forced to contract with an outside agency that offers methadone maintenance. Yes, it is a treatment that requires normally daily attendance to a clinic to receive the medication. Unfortunately, that really is not a realistic treatment plan for someone who would be receiving that sort of treatment. So you're right that it's not realistic, but this is a requirement of the state. And so having this contract satisfies that requirement.
And we wouldn't pay anything out if nobody uses the services.
Correct. Yeah. And we have not had anybody utilize it previously. I don't anticipate we would, but it allows us to be compliant with our drug Medi-Cal requirements.
Okay. And so if somebody does need a methadone treatment, can they get that any place locally at all?
I don't imagine anybody local would put someone on methadone because it's not available. And I expect that they would utilize other treatment modalities, such as a group that they have at Open Door that's been in operation for several years.
Okay. All right. So that's number 10.
So let's go ahead and take number 10 then individually since it's our 10:25 period. So if there's a motion for.
Move to approve.
We have a motion on the table.
Second.
Second. Let's go ahead and open up for public comment on item number 10 only on the consent agenda. Kylie, is there any public comment on this item?
Chair, I'm not seeing any at this time.
Okay, Kylie, if you could please pull the vote then, appreciate it.
Supervisor Starkey,
I guess, yes.
Supervisor Berkowitz,
Yes,
Supervisor Short,
Yes.
Supervisor Hemmingson,
Yes.
Chair Howard.
Yes, all right, let's go ahead and open it up for our 10:25 timed item, which is our public comment period. Members of the public may address the board on matters which are within the jurisdiction of the board. If you're addressing the board regarding a matter listed on the agenda, you may be asked to hold your comments until the board takes up that matter. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Kylie?
I do not have any written and I am not seeing any hands raised at this time.
Okay, very good. Then we're going to go ahead and go back to a consent agenda item number 11. Approve and authorize the chair to sign the agreement with Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency for the Homeless Housing Assistance Prevention Program, Round 2 funds in the amount of $91,797 from execution of this agreement through 6/30/2022 as requested by Director of Health and Human Services. This is the one that Supervisor Starkey pulled from the agenda. Supervisor Starkey?
Yeah, so over the last couple of weeks, I was approached by businesses that border the Legacy. And they had some real concerns with regard to activity that goes on in front of their business and the alleyway by their business and that sort of thing. They reached out to the managers of who manage that, who the county contracts with. And they were told that the businesses have cameras, but they were also told that the Legacy would need a camera in order for them to really know what was going on. They were kind of putting it on the business for them to, do all the research. And there's not only garbage, but there's feces in that alleyway. Some of the things that they were most concerned about, though, is activity that's happening out of one window. And they're assuming it is something illegal. It could not be something illegal at all. But they have that concern that that's the type of activity that's going on. The only reason I wanted to pull this is I'd love to get some direction from the board, if you're so inclined, to ask that the Human Services look into perhaps using some of this funding to install a camera so that the agency who manages that property can have some firsthand bird's eye view on it. And a lot of times when people know that they're being monitored, that curbs the activity as it is. It's the county-owned property. I think that we need to be good homeowners, so to speak, and make sure that the businesses that are impacted by the behavior that goes on there have some sort of protection that they know we're doing our share. So I'm just asking that we give some direction to the Homeless Housing Assistance and Prevention Program to consider using some of that funds to install camera systems on the east side of the building as well as the south side of the building.
Are you looking for a response from Director Snow on this
Um,
request?
If she would like to weigh in, certainly, I think the board might want to hear from her.
No, it sounds like it's appropriate. Director Snow, are you with us?
I'm here. Yeah. I couldn't speak to what conversation the business owner had with property management, but our staff that spoke to them and I guess, it really is a gray area. This is our property. And so even though someone else is doing the property management, it's not that we would just say, oh, this is their thing, talk to them. We certainly want to be involved and address any issues that come up. But I think we've been open to discussing the idea of cameras, and we're going through this renovation project. So it's certainly something we can keep in the conversations as we have been.
Okay. Good enough?
Is that good enough for Heather to know that we are keeping that in the
I
conversation?
think sounds
Okay.
like she's got it addressed. So
Then I'm totally satisfied. Thank you.
okay. With that, Supervisor Starkey, you want to make a motion?
Motion to approve item number 11.
Terrific.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table. Kylie, any public comment on item number 11 on the consent agenda?
Chair, I'm not seeing any at this time.
Okay, then if you could please pull the vote.
Supervisor Hemmingson,
Yes.
Supervisor Berkowitz,
yes,
Supervisor Short,
Yes.
Supervisor Starkey,
Yes.
Chair Howard.
Yes, all right. Item number 15 on our agenda is a timed item at 10:30. It is 10:30, which is open public hearing for the 2021-2022 fiscal year recommended budget as amended and all special district budgets governed by Delaware County for 2021-2022 fiscal year as submitted, and continue the hearing for 14 days as requested and present by the county administrative officer and auditor controller. 2, approve attached list of established 5 positions as requested by the county administrative officer and auditor controller, and accept recommended children's budget as presented, and direct staff to develop a process for community partners to request an award of local fiscal recovery funds based on funding levels discussed in this report for the Board of Supervisors consideration at a future meeting as requested by the auditor controller and the county administrative officer. With that, I'd like to open it up for public comment on item 15.
Chair, I'm not seeing any at this time.
All right, and we'll go
Oh.
ahead. Oh, sorry. Come on up.
Good morning.
Good
How
morning.
are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. I'm Norma Williams with the Delaware County Employees Association, SEIU 10-1. I'm the chapter president. And I just thought I would let you know, then also remind the board that we recognize that this is a recommended final budget. Our union is still in negotiations with your administrative team. And we are hoping that at some point, those negotiations will conclude in what I would hope would be a very fair and equitable, probably more than fair and equitable compensation for what I would call definitely deserving and worthy employees that work for this county. Keep in mind that when members of the public come into this building, when they come into the courthouse, Health and Human Services, Behavioral Health, Public Health, any county building, for the most part, they are greeted and served by employees who are represented by SEIU. Even those who provide behind-the-scenes services to our community, parks, building maintenance, IT, and their more than wonderful new website, as well as keeping the public up to date on COVID-19 statistics. Thank you, Rachel, for that. Good job. They're also represented by SEIU 10-1. I understand that we have budget constraints, monetary limitations, but I think you need to keep in mind that the union and its employees look and see what other employees are getting who are represented and unrepresented. They're very mindful of that. And I think you also need to understand that, yes, we sometimes have to settle for less, but I think it's not unfair for us to try to settle for more. It's not that we're entitled to it, but it's because we've earned it. And that's something we need to keep in mind. Since last year, we've shown up and we've proved that we've earned it and continue to earn it during this pandemic time. So I just would like to remind you of that as you consider the budget, and also the employees who, quite frankly, provide the direct services to this community. They see us first. Keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kylie, any additional public comment?
I'm not seeing any, Chair.
Okay. Then we'll go ahead and bring it back to the board. Any discussion from the board at this time or direction staff?
I just want to thank Mr. Lopez. He spent 2 hours with me as I went over line by line on my questions. So I do appreciate the time that you gave me for that. It's all brand new to me, and you explained everything very well, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the budget team also, and Neil especially. I did have a question that he answered. I am a little bit disappointed in all the years that I've been here in asking for additional staff. I've asked for a resource person in community development and not seeing that, and seeing five other positions is a little disappointing to me, but understandable. It's not that I'm against any of the positions that are being proposed, but you know, that resource position is Supervisor Howard and I have been, you know, I know he's been right on board with me trying to get that position as long as he's been a supervisor also. And so it would be nice to know if we could get someone that maybe could fill one person that could do some multitasking. If I know we're one of those positions is adding a code enforcement officer, which is probably needed. I'm not sure we need a full person, but you know, I know that we could use them. I just don't know if we can need them. And so if we could maybe combine that into a partial resource person might be something that we could look at. And I know I'm just bringing that up and don't mean to just throw it out there, but just a thought. So, but other than that, thanks. It looks great. Everything's moving along good. Appreciate it.
I can actually address that really quick if you'd like me to. At the request of the department head, Heidi Kunstl, she asked us just to add a general planning position. So the additional planning position is in the budget. And she said she would assign resource related tasks to those individuals. She didn't want a specialized position. She wanted either planner to be able to address those.
Great. Thank you.
That's wonderful news. Great direction. It's only been several years, but it's not a big deal. Supervisor Berkowitz.
I just want to echo Supervisor Hemmingson's request for an additional code enforcement officer. I think it's sorely needed. I think that our code enforcement officer at this particular juncture is just overworked. And it's really necessary that we do have an additional, I think it's needed for an additional code enforcement officer, and I would support that request.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the attached list for establishing the 5 positions. Also move to accept the recommended children's budget as presented, and also to direct staff to develop a process for community partners to request an award of local fiscal recovery funds based on funding levels discussed in this report.
So it's just the public hearing, correct, at this point?
Yep. We need number 1, also the action item to open the public hearing for 14 days.
Yeah, and to open it for 14 days.
I thought you opened it.
Did
did
I
I miss
read
that?
it, but if it's part of your
Oh.
motion, I think that's what
I
Neil's
moved
asking.
to open the public hearing as well.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Kylie, public comment. Or do we actually already took that, didn't we?
Yes, so we do not
Okay,
have any.
So, very good. Then we have a motion, and a second on the table. And with that discussion, I'll just add, I definitely agree with Supervisor Hemmingson that this is an important step, and most importantly, appreciate the time that staff has put into this. I know it's always a fight to get things that the public want, more importantly, those services that they expect the county to provide, things that staff want, and then things that the board want. And you're in the middle of this, trying to wrestle with very limited dollars. And I think the county has done our best to try to stretch those resources, those very limited resources, to where we really feel will most benefit those services that this county provides. You guys have done a great job to get us there. So don't take our criticisms too much at heart. We do the best with what we've got. And thank you again. Kylie, please pull the vote.
Supervisor Berkowitz,
Yes.
Supervisor Starkey,
Yes.
Supervisor Hemmingson,
Yes.
Supervisor Short,
Yes.
Chair Howard.
Yes. All right. That was perfect timing there, guys. Great discussion. It is 10:40. We're going to go ahead and move on with our next time item, which is a U.S. Forest Service update from Jeff Marzell. And I saw Jeff on earlier, so I know he's around,
Here.
just not for long.
Just not for long.
No, not too much longer, my friends.
Well, Jeff, glad you're with us today. Hopefully we can get your face back here in a second. Yeah.
You guys see me okay?
There we are. All right. You're on live with us, Jeff. Go ahead and kick us off, please.
Great. Thank you, Supervisor Howard. Well, good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Jeff Marzell. I'm still the district ranger of the Smith River National Recreation Area, and I really do appreciate the opportunity to virtually meet with you today. I hope you and your families are doing well. I planned on being there in person today, but there's a little gathering for me here at the district office, and I'm sad to report out that there's a little bit of a COVID episode running through my family, so I'm fairly limited in what I can do publicly right now. But here's what I plan to cover today. I'm going to discuss the forest closure, and I'm going to give you a fire management update. And I'll provide a summary of district efforts and successes. And then I have some farewell remarks, considering, again, this is my last week on the NRA. So closure update, as you all know, the Smith River NRA and all forests across California have been closed for a couple of weeks now. And the reason is to protect communities and natural resources from the potentials of catastrophic wildfire. As you all are aware, it has been another very challenging fire season in California, with multiple mega fires burning across Northern California and in the Sierra Nevada forests. Fortunately, so far, the NRA Gasky Ranger District has been spared a large fire this year. And we do expect, at least it's forecasted, to have some meaningful rain over the weekend. So that'll definitely help quite a bit. Let's really hope that that actually transpires. And I also really want to thank Delaware County for opening up Ward Field to the McCash fire suppression efforts that are going on around Orleans and Happy Camp. I know it's deeply appreciated. I know there's been some confusion. I've been getting messages, people thinking that those helicopters are here because we have a fire locally. Clearly get that message out. Hopefully folks know by now that there are no big fires on the NRA, and those helicopters are being used to support efforts on the McCash fire. So, it's my last week, and I guess I should let you know I accepted a position on the Mount Baker Snoqualmie National Forest in Northwest Washington. And I just want to make it clear that this move is being primarily driven by family considerations, as we'll be living closer to grandparents and other close family members. And I have to say this decision did not come lightly, as we've come to consider Delaware County our adopted home for close to 4 years now. And truthfully, being the Smith River NRA District Ranger has been, without a doubt, the highlight of my professional career with the U.S. Forest Service. So I was thinking a lot about what I should share out on my last report to the County Board of Supervisors. And so what I've decided is to provide you a summary of the state of the Smith River National Recreation Area. And I'm happy to report that the state of the Smith River NRA is strong. And I'm going to provide some highlights. So, I think folks know, and I've reported this out many times, my number one priority has been and continues to be to promote landscape scale restoration and hazardous fields reduction to ensure our forests and adjoining communities are better protected from catastrophic wildfires. And I have lots of great news to report out on this topic. The timing couldn't be perfect, because I'm happy to report that the Smith River Collaborative was recently awarded a California Carbon Initiative, or CCI grant, of $3.7 million to fund the Gasky Community Protection Project. This project will treat approximately 1,800 acres of hazardous fields around the community of Gasky. This was a collaborative effort led by the Smith River Collaborative with the Tolowa-Dene Nation as the lead applicant. So a lot of credit goes to them. Lots of long work, lots of long hours putting these grants in. This was our third try. So we're very, very excited that we were able to finally be successful at that. Also, we found out just a few months ago that CAL FIRE provided the district $200,000 in funding to support hazardous fields work around the community of Big Flat. In addition, the collaborative is currently awaiting word on an additional $1 million in Joint Chiefs funding to accomplish hazardous fields work in and outside of Big Flat. We haven't received that yet, but hopefully we'll hear about that very soon. Additionally, the district is in its second year of over $1 million in funding to complete hazardous fields work in the Little Jones watershed and the Washington Flat community. And of course, that's on top of the $1 million that we received in funding from NIFWIF funding over the last 3 or 4 years. So a lot of great work there. Happy to report that out. Timber and planning. The district is currently implementing the 18-11 hazardous tree abatement project, which is treating hazardous trees along 3 miles of road on the 18-11, which was burned out over by the Slater fire. That was about a year ago. And that project will provide approximately 1 million board feet of timber. And early next year, the district will be implementing the Kanopke Stewardship Agreement with the Mule Deer Foundation. And that project is anticipated to produce around 4.5 million acres of timber. Lastly, planning efforts are underway for the Rowdy Divide project, which will treat approximately 400 acres of timber and 2,000 acres of hazardous fuels. And we anticipate approximately 3 million board feet of timber coming from that project. So in total, in the past 4 years, we've secured approximately $6 million in hazardous fuels reduction funding. And as this fire season plays out, we recognize that this couldn't have come at a better time. This work is critical and is a critical step towards protecting our vulnerable communities. Additionally, once fully implemented, the district will have produced approximately 10 million board feet of timber and improved wildlife habitat over thousands of acres of our public land here in Delaware County. So that's landscape restoration. So I think another big priority for me has been to implement the travel management plan, the Smith River Travel Management Plan, which I know was worked on for years and years before I got here. When I got here, I recognized we need to get that stuff implemented right away, and good news to report out there. So in late 2000, the forest was awarded $1 million to complete all unfunded travel management implementation work on the district. That work is currently being implemented right now. And of course, that's on top of the approximately 300,000 acres in NIFWIF grants that the county and the district was awarded 2 years ago. So in summary, we have approximately $1.3 million committed to completing and implementing all travel management work on the NRA. Recreation, this is something that means a lot to me. We are a national recreation area. It's been important to me to put the big R back in the NRA and make sure that it's worthy of its name, because I recognize how important tourism is to this economy. And so we're trying to do our part. And one of the things I recognized when I got here is, the NRA doesn't have a trails crew. We don't have a lot of resources to do trail work, and we count on our partners to improve and maintain our trails. And over the past few years, we've accomplished a tremendous amount of trail work on the NRA, honestly, the best in years. With support from the Delaware Trail Alliance, Siskiyou Mountain Club, Bigfoot Trail Alliance, over 30 miles of critical trail maintenance was accomplished, with the majority of that work occurring on the very popular South Kelsey Trail. We are anticipating similar efforts and successes with our partners this year and over the coming years. These partnerships are only growing stronger every year. Additionally, I'm happy to report, this is a big deal, we hired a new NRA recreation management specialist. This is a professional level position. We've been operating with a recreation technician for many years, but we now have a professional recreation management specialist. Her name is Annika Smith, and we're fortunate to have her coming over from the National Park Service, and she's got years and years of trail experience. So excited about her being on. Mountain bike trails, I've talked about this a bit. Another kind of keystone aspect of promoting tourism in Delaware County. And again, happy to report that the district, with support from the Delaware Trail Alliance and a grant from the Humboldt Area Foundation, completed phase 1 of the Hurdy-Gurdy Mountain Bike Trail Project. We anticipate that phase 2, including all NEPA planning efforts, will be funded through an upcoming RAC grant, Resource Advisory Committee grant. And that project utilizes, logging roads, mining trails, along with new trail to create an existing mountain bike trail system. And it fits very nicely with the existing infrastructure we have out there, including the big flat campground, lots of dispersed campgrounds along Hurdy-Gurdy Creek, and a trail that already exists out there. And, very importantly, one of the other priorities for me has been strengthening and building partnerships. All the work and success we've had recently, be it the grant money for landscape scale restoration or travel management or improving the recreational experiences of the NRA, are all because of our strong and growing partnerships. Through our work with the collaborative, the county, tribes, environmental organizations, and other partners, we are becoming more successful and more competitive in building more consensus around the need to improve forest health and support our local communities here. And so, with that, with a heavy heart, I say goodbye. And let me take this opportunity to express my deepest sense of gratitude for the strong partnership and relationship that I have with Delaware County. I have to say our partnership and relationship has never been better. And the success we're having is in no small measure because of you. You've been nothing but gracious towards me, and I really appreciate that. In an era of deep polarization, I feel so grateful that here in this community, we've decided to work together in making the Smith River NRA and the communities we serve in Delaware County stronger and more resilient. And I'll end by saying that we do have an acting district ranger coming on September 26th. Her name is Kathy Allen. She actually worked on the Six Rivers for 3 decades as a civil rights officer, and she's currently the district ranger on the Powers Ranger District on the Rogue River Siskiyou National Forest. I spoke with Kathy. She's very excited about coming on. I've downloaded on everything I know. I explained how important this relationship is with the county and how that should be a priority of hers. And I think it registered, and I think she gets it. So I wish you all the best with that. And we do plan on having a new ranger here, a new permanent ranger that is at the beginning of January. So thank you again. And I again appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. That's it for me.
Terrific. Board, any comments you'd like to share with Jeff at this time?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Chairman. Yeah, Jeff, I want to personally thank you. It's really difficult to see you leave. You've been so instrumental in, I guess, attracting these partnerships that we've had and what we've accomplished on the recreation area, and having this new recreation specialist is certainly is very interesting and hopefully going to be very productive. I'm truly sorry to see you go. I think you've been a great addition, and I'm not sure that we're going to be able to find someone to fill your shoes. After we've trained you so well, now we're going to have to train somebody else. It's just a little disappointing to see you go. We had great. I guess we had great feelings that you were going to be around for a long time, and I think when you started, you thought you would be too. But we know things come up. I just want to personally thank you, as well as thank you from the board, everything that you've done for the opportunities in the national recreation area, especially the recreational part of it. With dealing with the from the campgrounds to the fuels reductions and everything in between. Really appreciate and want to express that my hope for good things for you in the future. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Henderson.
Supervisor Berkowitz.
Jeff, I just wanted to thank you for getting the rack started again. It's been a long time in coming, and you were really instrumental in getting it going. We appreciate all your efforts, and we hope that your successor will continue the good work, and especially getting the rack off the ground. So thanks again. I appreciate it.
Kylie, is there any public comment at this time?
Chair, I'm not seeing any.
Okay, then I'll bring it back and close this presentation up and express those sentiments that Supervisor Hemmingson expressed. Jeff, my first memory of meeting with you on this forest was specific to fire response. And this relationship you speak of went well beyond just a communication between a supervisor who has a lot of forested lands in his district and responding to potential fire outbreak in Forest Service lands. You made the commitment to me at that time that you were going to do everything you could to put resources on those fires so they wouldn't jeopardize our community. And there's no question that you followed through every single time there was a threat on our forest of fire, and making sure those resources were there to combat those fires. And even though we had some big issues here in the previous year that came in from Happy Camp unexpectedly, you still put those resources in place to protect our communities and most importantly, Gasky at the time. And I cannot thank you enough, and I know the board can't either, for really putting your words into action. And I know Jerry's points about the NRA and the recreation specialists, it's something we've been talking about here for years, that we just don't use this forest enough. That's a big move before you go, and I really appreciate it. The fact that you've brought these partnerships together with the leadership of your team, the Smith River Collaborative that Supervisor Hemmingson has participated on, along with the Smith River Alliance and our local tribes, has been it's been really a model for the state on how we need to work with our public lands, and more importantly, our Forest Service lands that have so many important resources for people to see. That's why they were put there. And more importantly, it's a huge piece of our tourist economy. And I'll leave with, we'll continue to push, and most importantly, with your new, with your replacement for the Diamond Creek through High Plateau Road and getting some maintenance on there. I know it's a big thing for our community. We'll bring that up with your replacement, but I just want to end on a positive note that you've been incredible to work with. And I've worked with a lot of Forest Service personnel since in the last 25 years, but you have been the best. So thank you again. Best to you and your family and your new position.
Thank you so much for that, Supervisor. I really appreciate it. It's been a great run, and I wish you all the best. I wish you health, and I'm confident you have a great forest supervisor here. I'll just end on that, Ted MacArthur. I think that he understands all the great work that's going on up here, and I know he's committed to continuing all the work that we've started. So I'm really confident that whoever replaces me is going to be right on, and it's going to support this community the way I have. So I'm confident about the future here. So thank you.
Excellent. Well, that's a great way to end this. Wish we could join you today, but good luck in your endeavors.
Thank you.
All right. At this time, we'd like to move forward with our 10:50 timed item, which is a COVID-19 update. And do we have Dr. Stutz with us today, Kylie?
I'm not seeing him online. I'm not sure if he's calling in, but I'm not seeing him at this moment.
Okay. Well, while we're waiting for that update, and Kylie, maybe if you could, you or Neil could try to connect with him. I want to circle back to the consent agenda item number 13, which was approve and authorize the chair to sign the renewal agreement for emergency transportation services with Delaware Ambulance, Inc. for the period of July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022, not to exceed $120,000. As directed by the Health and Human Services, Supervisor Short did pull that from the agenda for discussion. Supervisor Short.
Yes. Thank you, Chair. First off, the contract language here, I believe, is completely reasonable and appropriate for the job that needs to be done, transporting our mental health patients out of the county. I just wanted to explore the possibility of maybe adding to this and giving the board a little bit of information about what's happening with our ambulance responses and emergency response in the county. As you all know, I'm a volunteer fireman and was chief this last weekend. And one of the units, as you may or may not know, our main ambulance contract with the county dictates that there will be 3 ambulances on at all times. 2 of them happen to be advanced life support. One of them can be a basic life support ambulance. When one of these mental health transports come about, usually the basic life support ambulance is the one elected to take the transport. More often than not, it's a trip to Reading or Sacramento. So this ambulance is basically put out of service, 12 to 18 hours. What we ran into this weekend was, the one ambulance was out of town for an extended period of time. We had a flurry of calls, and one of our constituents had to wait for aid to come from Brookings, had to wait for half an hour for CalOR to come render aid, which is completely appropriate. The mutual aid contracts between those 2 agencies dictate that that's the way things will work. But I just wondered if the board thought that that while that ambulance was out of town, if that was still kind of complying with the spirit of the contract of having the 3 ambulances on at all times. There's kind of another piece to this, is that, while we were, whether your viewpoint is that we were short an ambulance or not, Delaware Ambulance is staffing an ambulance on one of our wildland fires. So it seems to me that the people of Delaware County are kind of getting the short end of the stick when one of these ambulances have to leave town for an extended period of time. In the contract in our agenda packet in attachment B, I think it's page 277. There's a matrix of the places that they go. And I just wanted to point out that the first one is Sempervirens in Eureka. It's only 84 miles away. But Sempervirens hasn't been taken out of county patients for years. So I understand the necessity of having it listed in this contract. I get that, but I wanted to make sure that the board knew that Sempervirens is not a choice. So if we have a mental health patient that needs to be taken to a higher level of care, then they are going to go on a long road trip. So I was curious as to whether the board would explore putting in or adding some language to this contract that would talk to or maybe dictate that there would be a backfill of a ready ambulance left in the county to replace the one that's missing on these very long trips. I didn't know if there would be an appetite for that, but I wanted to try and inform the board of what's going on in the community and with ambulance response and see what the opinion of the board would be.
Yeah, that's interesting question, Supervisor. I don't know if since I've been here, if we've ever had this type of discussion up here or been allowed or had some insight, let's say, into maybe holes in coverage and what the circumstances are behind why we have those holes occurring. And of course, we as a county contracting with donor ambulance don't want to have holes. So it's a reasonable question to ask. What do you do in this case? Obviously, this is the first time we're seeing this agenda item and have the ability as a board to discuss it and possibly give direction at this time or approve the contract to move forward. But I guess one of my questions immediately is, does this have to be approved today? Is there time to revisit this contract at a later meeting with some of these questions that are brought forward by Supervisor Short to see if amendments are appropriate to address, in this case, holes that he's seeing as a first responder here in the community? So,
and maybe I'm off on this particular contract. Maybe we could go forward with this one, but then when the main contract with the county with Delaware Ambulance comes up again, maybe we should address it at that time. But I don't know.
I have a question though, and perhaps this is for Mr. Campbell Blair, but aren't they two separate contracts? One contract says that we're going to have these 3 ambulances, and this one says we're going to authorize the transport. I don't know. I think they're 2 separate contracts. So we should be getting the 3 ambulances locally. And then in addition to that, they are going to use a 4th ambulance to do these out of county transports. I don't see anywhere in this particular contract, unless I missed it, that says, all right, we're going to have those 3, but we're going to take one of them to do the transport. I think they're 2 separate contracts. We got to hold them accountable for the services in each contract.
And I guess that's where I was going with my previous I may be off by bringing it up with this.
No, I think it's
contract.
a great discussion. I honestly do, but when we look at a contract, right, that you're going to give us these services in this one, but there's still that one. And we still expect the services in that one, unless I'm way off base.
No, I think that's where I'm at with it as well. And I don't know, like you say, it may be a answer for Joel to give, but maybe we could bring back the main contract. I don't know if we have to wait till the term is up before we speak to an addition to that or not.
I think that's definitely something we can revisit. I don't know, Heather can probably speak to whether this is something that has to go forward today or can wait. But this came from DHHS. The main contract, I believe, was negotiated with administration. So it's actually kind of 2 parts of the county dealing with these issues. And we could synthesize them and look at both contracts together.
Okay.
I would ask that the current contract on the agenda not be held up. We do need it in order to pay Delmar Ambulance. Our auditor's office will not write checks unless we have an existing agreement. And so we we don't want to cause any problems with not being able to pay Del Mar Ambulance, but certainly if something impacts this agreement, we're willing to participate in a conversation about an amendment in the future. And I imagine Del Mar Ambulance would be happy to be part of that too.
Well, that's interesting, Heather. So if Del Mar Ambulance uses one of their ambulance for this contract, and they don't provide 3 ambulances for Del Mar County, I mean, we're talking about, as Supervisor Starkey said, we're dealing with 2 different contracts. So I guess this is a question for Del Mar Ambulance. Are they taking an ambulance away from our contract to support this contract? And the other thing, I would think, and we're certainly in a small county, and when large things happen, we never have enough resources to go around, and that certainly does with ambulances. But when they do take a transport, a medical transport or mental health transport, do they notify mutual aid carrier? And maybe that's something that we should request, is that they notify them saying, hey, we're going to have an ambulance on a transport and we need to have a little bit of help here. So anyway, I know there's a couple of questions there and I'm kind of rambling, but it'd be interesting to know if they're, if they're supplying an ambulance just for the contract for Heather, and then the one for the county, they still have those other 3 ambulances. So I guess that's something we'd have to ask Del Mar Ambulance.
And I guess that's my point is I believe the people of the county are getting shortchanged when a mental health transport leaves the county. So if I can make an official request that we revisit the ambulance contract and have that specific discussion, I'd like to.
Joel, I'm not familiar enough with that contract. I know we just approved it not too long ago, so it'll be a while before we have the opportunity to revisit. Is there any openers clauses in there for this type of circumstance?
I'd have to relook at it. Off the top of my head, I can't remember what the termination or amendment looks like. That's a long-standing contract we could do to revisit it anyway.
Okay.
We've actually changed the county code a little bit since we started that practice. So I think it's a good discussion to have, good opportunity, and we can get together and come back at a future agenda and discuss.
All right. Well, as Director Snow stated, there's obviously we want to pay our bills.
So I would move that we approve consent item number 13.
Second.
We have a motion. Second, Kylie, can you please open it up for public comment?
Chair, I'm not seeing any at this time.
Okay, then go ahead and hold the vote, please.
Supervisor Starkey,
Yes.
Supervisor Berkowitz,
Yes.
Supervisor Hemmingson,
Yes.
Supervisor Short,
Yes.
Chair Howard.
Yes. All right. Did Dr. Stutz join us by any chance?
I have been speaking with Director Snow and I have emailed him and we're not able to reach him at the moment.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if you want to just proceed or.
Neil, do you want to just take over the briefing at this time then? Do you have enough data or do you rely mostly on his input?
Yeah, I rely on them from Public Health,
Okay.
Melody and Dr. Stutz. I actually sent a text to him as well and he didn't respond.
Okay, he's probably indisposed doing very important medical procedures. So let's, if he does have a chance to join us later in the meeting, I think these updates are important for the community. So I'm not going to close this item out just yet, but we'll try to revisit it if he does show up. Let's go ahead with item 18 then, which is our 11 o'clock timed item. Receive a presentation on proposed tiny home housing projects within Del Mar County being presented today by True North Organizing Network. Are they with us today, Kylie?
Yes, they will be participating via Zoom.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, good morning, board supervisors. Can you all hear me?
Good morning, Dana. We certainly can.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you so much for having us here this morning and giving us the opportunity to present to you. As the chairman said, my name is Pastor Dana Gilport, and I'm the pastor at the Methodist Church here in town in Crescent City. I am also a leader in True North, and I have been for a little over 4 years. And I'm the chairperson for the Housing and Homelessness Advisory Group. Del Norte has a housing crisis, and we all know this. Such a complex issue requires many diverse solutions, and we're here to talk about just one of them. As most of you know, True North has been developing an interim housing project for the unhoused in our community for over 2.5 years. And we're here today to present an opportunity to you and to seek your approval for the use of county-owned land for the project pending funding acquisition. For now, I'm going to pass it on to Mike to give you a brief history of our work.
Thank you, Pastor Dana. Now, as you heard, my name is Mike Tompkins, and many of you know me from my work with True North from its earliest days. And some of you also know me as the public member of the Solid Waste Board of Commissioners. And I'm going to be sharing just a brief background with you for context here. In 2018, True North brought a resolution to end homelessness to the Del Norte Board of Supervisors, and it passed unanimously. Around the same time, True North leaders were researching potential solutions to our housing problems and learned about Rogue Retreat's transitional tiny home village model. True North brought the founders of that project here to Del Norte to talk to the board and to the city council. And in 2020, the Board of Supervisors asked True North to form a community-wide stakeholders group, which we called our Housing and Homelessness Advisory Group, or HAG for short. This was part of a statewide effort called No Place Like Home, which was meant to explore solutions to homelessness and create a continuum of care, leading to permanent supportive housing. Now, over the last 2 years, the HAG and True North have been working closely together with the county. And we were able to write a grant for the county that brought in resources for Mission Possible. We assisted the county in the submission of Home Key grant that brought in the resources to buy the Legacy Hotel. We advocated for a housing coordinator position at the county. And by the way, we are very pleased that this position now exists. We also have spoken to many county staff in health and human services, as well as planning, development, and probation about this project. Daphne at Mission Possible has been a key partner in developing this project. We've also consulted with Darlene Spoor at Arcata House Partnership, who shared valuable insights and is willing to work with us to find initial and ongoing funding, as well as helping us develop management processes and procedures for this project. And now I'm going to turn this back over to Pastor Dana, who will give you all more details about the project itself.
All right. So when we first introduced this idea to all of you, we were calling this a tiny home village, which it will be. But in order to secure funding, the technical term for this type of housing project is an emergency shelter facility consisting of detached bedroom units with separate congregant on-site kitchen, laundry, storage, and bathroom and shower facilities. We really affirm the dignity of all people and believe that everyone should have access to safe and clean housing, regardless of identity or status, particularly with the rise of COVID and just in general. We really recognize that it's so important for people to, especially when they've been chronically homeless or unhoused, that their dignity just kind of falls to the wayside, and providing them with shelter and a key to their own place, even if it is meant to be transitional, is truly what gives them their dignity back and allows them to become functioning members of our community in a way that is productive to our community. And as such, we plan to utilize the housing first model. For us, what this means is that people can come into the program in any condition, regardless of their mental health status, of their addictions. There are no restrictions. However, for the purpose of supportive case management, there will be on-site program rules that residents will need to follow while living at this site. For example, on-site drug or alcohol use is not permitted. And if possible, I'd like us to be able to pull up some images real quick. You should be able to see some images on your screen right here. Our vision for this pilot project is a place of temporary refuge for individuals who have either been chronically unhoused or have become recently unhoused, who need case management support in order to transition to permanent living situations. Here are some examples of what some tiny home villages look like. Our intention is to provide 24-hour staff and support for residents, access to counselors for case management and support on mental health issues, substance abuse, job training. Here you can see the homes that Rogue Retreat, who made the presentation. Those are what they look like up in Medford. They'll have access to life skills through this facility, accessible facilities for those with physical impairments, and a safe, secure, gated facility for residents, which ensures that they'll feel safe and secure in their own space so that they can begin that process of transitioning into permanent housing without all of these supportive services, or perhaps even with some supportive services. The goal is that the residents are able to move into permanent housing situations within 6 to 9 months. And then if we could pull up the old Juvenile Hall image, here you'll see a Google satellite image of 800 Williams Drive, the old Juvenile Hall. During our research and outreach work, we identified this site as an ideal location for the project. It's close to public transportation, county and community services, health clinics, and grocery and drug stores. The property is set back from the highway. It's spacious enough for multiple units, as you can see, and has plenty of room for other facilities needed for support services. True North is acting as the developer for this project, and it is our intent to identify an experienced partner to manage the facility, as this is not our core work and expertise. Darlene Spohr of Arcata House Partnership has been consulting with us in the planning of the project and has indicated that her organization might be interested in running the facility. In order to be competitive for the upcoming release of the new round of state home key funding, we believe that the project needs to be as close to shovel ready as possible. That's how we understand it. And you can see on this image in the center there was an old double wide that has the what's the word I'm looking for? The base for a housing unit, for a housing structure or a kitchen structure. So it is in fact shovel ready, even though it needs some help to get it there. This site perfectly fits that description, in part due to the existing foundation, the electricity and the plumbing from what has been there before, like I said. And at this point, to move forward on our planning and to have a stronger chance at securing funding, our ask to the board today is that you direct county staff to work with True North to figure out a process for transferring or leasing the Williams Drive property, pending funding acquisition from this project, to develop a pilot emergency shelter with detached bedrooms. I know one of the things that when we spoke to you all, or I think we spoke to most of you, maybe not all of you, you said you need to talk to Lonnie because it is so close to the existing juvenile hall. And I have had a conversation with Lonnie, and I feel that our ask as it stands addresses all of his concerns. I know that he's on the call today, but if you have any questions, we'll do our best to answer them now.
Thank you, Dana. Appreciate that. Any questions to start Dana off with from the board? Supervisor Hemmingson.
Yeah, Dana, personally, I would have liked to have seen an overlay of where you were planning on putting this and how many units and the ability for expansion and all that type of thing, so that we could see, so we could get a sense of what impacts, what would impact the other buildings in that area. So if that's what I would like to see. So that, I guess that's just a question. I know that you indicated the place in the center, but knowing how big of an area and and how these are going to be laid out, the ingress and egress and all that, those types of things would be nice to see on a plan.
Yeah, we had really hoped to get a visual together for you, and I will be quite candid. I'm on vacation right now, so I was not able to put as much attention into this as I wanted to. And I can tell you, like, we are planning on having our vision is a beautiful high wall and perhaps even an outdoor covered kitchen area where that center concrete slab is. We're hoping to put in, we are very ambitious, but our hope is to have 40 units total, and perhaps even restructuring the old juvenile hall that stands currently as maybe like a rooftop garden and shower facility. We don't know exactly what we can do with it yet, and that's why we are asking for this facility.
Is it the old mental health building?
The
that they're
old
talking
juvenile
about?
hall.
It's the old school. That's where my wife taught for years. This where the double was on? Right. Well, the building she was on was the classrooms.
And I believe that there are 2 trailers there that the school district is currently using still. And we would certainly, I think, have to have conversations with people at the school district, but I don't know that our work would impede the school district from using those sites. Again, that would require further discussion.
Yeah, I think Supervisor Hemmingson brings up some good points that absolutely need to be fleshed out by the board, but I think there's even to back this up further, Dana, ensuring that True North has all their ducks in a row in the beginning of these conversations. I think it's a good approach directing, if that's the will of the board, direct staff to have discussions with you to help present a good shovel-ready project, I think is important. But what I really would like the board to discuss is if the board feels that this is an appropriate location to cite one of these things. I know True North has done a lot of work, as we've all heard probably personally from them, to try to find a location for this type of housing project. But I really would like the board to discuss today whether or not we believe this is the appropriate site. Obviously, Lonnie's input on this is important, but in addition, the board's input on it is important, and would love to hear some of the board's opinion if this is what we're thinking as an appropriate site for this because of the surrounding resources, as Dana mentioned. I think we do need to have that discussion, because I wouldn't want them just us to direct staff with the idea it will come back to the board and us say, no, sorry, it doesn't work for us here. So I think that's more important to address today than just about anything else.
So I personally feel it's an ideal site, right? It's close to services, it's close to shopping and that sort of thing. It's off the main road. My only concern, obviously, is the juvenile hall. And then I'm trying to remember the businesses that border there. I know Totem Villa is an apartment complex right there. And then I know the fairgrounds has something, and there's Caltrans in there too. So we would definitely need to make sure that all the neighboring properties get heard on what they think as well. But having driven back there, I think it's a great location, to be honest. It checks all of my boxes with regard to being close to the services and existing land. So I think it's great, but I would want to hear from a lot more people.
Yeah, I'm not totally opposed to it. I'm open to taking a look at a look at that. But like I say, just more information and seeing who's impacted and property owners around, as Supervisor Starkey said, and the county facilities that are there, what the impacts are. So I just think we need more information. I'm certainly open to the idea.
Supervisor Short.
Yeah, I was just going to say, the big question is always where. where do you put this? Where's the ideal spot? And this kind of off the highway, near these services, like Pastor Gilport was saying, I think is a pretty decent choice. But as Supervisor Hamilton was saying, a little more information. I'm curious as to what Lonnie would say as to the proximity to the new juvenile hall and how that might be affected. And of course the businesses, Big Five, the Cal Fire station is backed up to that property as well. Redwood Coast Transit is right there. So it would behoove us, I believe, to listen or to hear from those that would be bordering that tiny home village.
Sure. Supervisor Berkowitz?
Yeah, I would just like to know if there's any other property available that's been investigated to see if there are other sites that would serve their purpose.
Yeah, and that's a good question for Dana. Dana, you didn't answer that. You might have in direct conversations with us, but maybe Supervisor Berkowitz hasn't heard that.
Yeah, so we have researched other sites, and there's one other potential site that could work. It's not nearly as good as this one. And I will also say, I also see that Lonnie has his hand up, so I do think he wants to speak to it. If you remember, if you were able to see the presentation from Rogue Retreats, the implications of the businesses around, because there's the rules of the facility itself don't allow for loitering, and don't allow for a lot of like visitors to be coming and going. So they're usually projected. Obviously, we can't guarantee anything, but there usually in these sort of facilities is not much, what's the word I'm looking for? Negative impact to businesses that surround because of the rules and the structure that go into this sort of facility. Did that answer your question, Supervisor?
I think
Berkowitz?
so.
Okay, yeah. I do see Alan Winogrado here. Also, I understand that Lonnie's had his hand up. I think we're really interested in hearing from Lonnie. So if you
Okay.
could cue him in, Kylie.
Lonnie, you just have to unmute your mic.
Morning, board.
Good morning.
I'll see if I can lower my hand now. I don't know if I can figure that one out. So these discussions have been ongoing almost as long as I've been chief, not necessarily the specific project, but the housing needs of the community. And I absolutely recognize that we have a housing crisis and a lot of challenges to overcome with that population. So I'll say that off the top. Also, in all candor, I've never been very supportive of a community like this close to the juvenile hall. That also has been a topic of discussion as long as I've been chief. At one point, I might have said over my dead body. I don't remember if that was the exact phrase, but I wouldn't be that strenuous at this point. However, I do see both pros and cons to the location of a facility like this close to the existing juvenile hall. And even that, with the discussions regarding adult custody at the jail that we're now having, the input that we have as far as the juvenile hall being able to assist, this all might be a moot conversation in several months. But we need time to sort through that as well, both time for that question and time for this project. So with all those things being said, a couple of the concerns that I have, there's always going to be regular traffic on Williams Drive. Currently, we've got the juvenile hall and juvenile services for probation operating out of the juvenile hall. And we have regular traffic of staff. We have regular traffic of law enforcement, of our youth, both on foot and in vehicles. And one of my concerns particularly has been the safety and security of both our youth and the individuals that we might have in a housing situation like this. And it goes both ways. We supervise youth that are absolutely willing to victimize people. And oftentimes folks who are homeless and struggling with homelessness are in a position where they can be victimized. It happens on a regular basis. Those are regular calls that law enforcement deals with. So that is one concern, that the kids that already have struggles managing their own behavior and their own impulses would choose to victimize the people that live here. On the flip side of that, there's also the possibility that youth that we supervise that are required to go and engage in services at the juvenile hall could be victimized by this population. Pastor Gilport, True North, I think they're attempting to work very hard to try and mitigate those concerns. They're talking about fencing around the facility, about maintaining security there. Those are all good things. I don't know exactly how, and I don't know that any of us do, exactly how that plays out boots on the ground, but I think that is definitely a consideration that needs to be weighed throughout this conversation, so that we can ensure the safety and security of both people that might live there, as well as the kids that we're responsible for and we have an obligation to. And that's probably my primary concern. A secondary concern regarding the actual physical property and buildings that are there right now is that I've had a long-standing agreement with the school district to use the 2 modulars that are still there on site on Williams Drive as a training facility for my staff and others. We do a lot of training. We're required to for probation. And so we put in probably hundreds of hours of training every year for our staff, and a good number of those occur at that facility. We've converted one into a mat room that we can use for physical skills, and we're in there at least every month. The other side is being used by the school district currently. There's one particular youth that they identified needed a space for his educational needs, and they've been using that other modular as well as us using it for a classroom for training purposes. So if the county chooses to go in this direction, we lose access to that. And I have no other training sites that are available. My mat room is the only one in existence in the county. And so it has often in the past been used by the sheriff's office as well on occasion to get their folks up to speed on defensive tactics, baton, things like that. So one of the downsides of this is I'm going to lose access to an adequate, well, mostly adequate facility to train my staff. There is currently no other option for us. So that's another one of the downsides of using that facility. It is on the pro side. Yeah, it is hooked up to utilities, has been for a long time. The map that Pastor Gilport put up had a big 3x, 4x modular that's been moved off site, and those footings and foundation are still there. There is a modular on the south edge of that piece of property that you might have seen in the map. That is county owned, and for the most part, it's used as storage. Occasionally, we work with Health and Human Services to be able to utilize that for groups or programming, rarely, but that's pretty much the only use that building has had. And further south that you wouldn't have seen is the old mental health building. And I suppose the only other consideration on all parts is that old juvenile hall. You might have some significant cost in trying to either demolish or renovate that. So that's something that should be considered across the board. Had it been cheap and easy, we probably would have gotten rid of it a long time ago. So I think that the general idea of a self-governance model works well. Typically, I've seen that in drug and alcohol housing, sober living environments. Most of the time, that's the most successful model that we see, is a model of housing and living where the people that live there, they govern themselves, they hold each other accountable. And so again, on the positive side of the scale, I think that is definitely worth looking at and pursuing. And if we're going to do this, I think that's probably the wisest choice. So with all of those bouncing back and forth, different points, I'll stay on the line in case you have any other questions, but thank you.
And real quick, to speak to the issue that Lonnie brought up about the facilities, the modulars that are being used by both his department and the school district. I could be misinterpreting my group's research, but it is my understanding that that those modulars will not necessarily be like you could still have access to them and use them with our vision. I think that they will be outside the walls. I could be wrong about that, but I think that they will be outside.
Thank you. I want to take this opportunity. I saw Alan walk in earlier. Alan, if you've got anything to add, now would be the time.
Well, if you guys have questions about the property, I'm more than happy to talk about it.
Yep.
I have one other question that I was hoping to get from
Lonnie.
actually Mr. Lopez.
Oh.
Is there any other targeted reason or interest in that property? Do we have any other ideas of something that we'd want to put there? Or is that location being coveted by another agency or group?
Any kind of county expansion is always included that location for consideration. We've talked about a standalone EOC for several years. We haven't had the funding to do that. It was something that was tried to put forward for the community projects last fiscal year, but we didn't have enough information that Greg felt comfortable enough taking it forward. So we hope to have that information for this coming up year. There have been other discussions about expansion from other facilities that I don't want to go into detail here because we haven't had enough conversation on our end. But that property has been discussed for that as well. But this is something we talked to Pastor Gilport about and the rest of True North. I think it's a great idea and concept. There are quite a few hurdles that came up through the conversations that we had with administration, county development, or community development. There's some county council issues we have to talk about, and health and human services. So there's quite a few things that need to be addressed as far as gaps are concerned. But overall, it's a good project.
If
Did I
we're
answer your
just looking
question?
for direction to have this open up a discussion with administration, that's kind of what we're doing here, because there's a lot to flesh out here. And so I don't know exactly if we're just looking, I think how she worded it was to direct county staff to work with True North for the possibility of either purchase or lease.
I think the direction of staff came from the conversation we had with them in August. When we had that conversation, it included myself, community development, and health and human services. Each of our departments identified gaps in the information that was provided to us. And there are things that just have to be addressed, which is why we had kind of directed True North to come to the board with some kind of a presentation. And if the board decided to direct us, we knew it was much bigger than us just taking this on individually. We needed direction from the board.
Okay.
Fair enough. Thank you. Is there any questions for Alan about the facility?
Well, they did bring up, Lonnie brought up a good point too about demolishing the old Juvenile Hall. Is that like asbestos or those types of things?
Well, it was definitely built pre-1978, and
Yeah.
with that one alone, I will almost guarantee that there's asbestos in it. Worst case scenario, we probably do a $10,000 study to have it an abatement process done. Then at that point, once they do find lead, most likely, as well as the asbestos, then we have to deal with that. And once we do find out, we definitely do have to deal with that.
Right. So that's why we've just left it alone, I take it.
But yeah, we basically boarded it up, and people tend to break in every so often. We go board it up again, and just try to keep the folks out. I have spent a lot of time with the True North folks, talking about the possibilities of county properties. And we do have a few properties that could work, but from this standpoint, I think that's the best one. It does have the infrastructure from the old McCarthy School, which is there. If they were to just kind of leave the old Juvenile Hall alone, based on the conversations I've had with these folks, is there's still enough room for them to do what they want. But I mean, I support this project. I absolutely do. Is this the right place for it? That's up to you guys. Other locations that we did talk about is the property where the old community development department used to be, just directly east of the sheriff's office. That is owned by us. That does have the infrastructure that's in place to put in something like this. It just that all comes down to what's wanted by the board and admin for future.
What about expanding the search with state properties? I know the state has properties that they've designated that could be available for housing for this type of housing, I believe. Maybe we should expand the search and see if there's any state properties that are available also. I think they even have an inventory of stuff that may be available.
Yeah, I can't speak for True North whether or not they've looked into that, but if the board directs, we could also include that in our analysis of this.
Well, I think that needs to be all part of this investigation. If we're going to put staff time and effort towards it, let's make it an overall look at things. Let's don't just get focused in on this is our one option. This is the only place we can do it, that type of thing. So that's all I'm saying is let's open it up. Let's make sure that this is the only place, or this is the best place, or, for everybody concerned. So I think we just need to maybe expand our horizons a little bit and look outside just county property, because I know the state is interested in doing these types of things also.
Kind of along those same lines, and I don't know, Dana, if you realize this, but it's in the run-up zone back there. All the backside of the fairgrounds, right up to the entrance to Parkway, that whole area there is in the run-up zone. So I was curious as to if you knew that, and if that would kind of ace us out of any kind of grant opportunity to finish this project. I just wanted to throw that out there, so that's on the table as well.
Great. Thank you, Alan. Kylie, let's see if there's any public comment on this agenda item.
Give me one moment. Chair, I'm not seeing any at this time.
Okay. Again, I think this has been a good discussion and probably long overdue, especially since we received the presentation last year from the group out of Medford. The thing I like most about what we're talking about here today is especially reflecting back on that conversation, is that they had hard data on the success of programs like this. And I know it's going to be a difficult discussion for us as a board, but more importantly, I don't think the staff could move any further forward with this without some kind of direction. So.
Yeah, Dana, I do have just one other question, and I noticed that all the research is done is from Oregon. Have you done any research on California facilities like this? I mean, we don't, California is kind of a different animal when you get to these types of things, when you start building things. So it's really hard to compare apples to apples when you go to Oregon and then try to bring a project into California. So I know that Chico and some of the have. Yes, Sonoma County probably. Well, I don't know about Sonoma about the tiny house thing, but anyway.
Supervisor, we did do research throughout California. The pictures that you were shown just happened to all be from Oregon. But we did do our research throughout California. Yeah. And we also did look into state properties. This was the most shovel-ready property that we found, and I encourage you to do your own research as well.
Okay, so this has been a robust discussion. Is there any willingness through consensus to kind of lob this back into staff's court, knowing we have limited time, but staff is challenged for a lot of time these days, but if that's the direction and consensus.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so too. And I wasn't on the board back then, but I always watched the meetings. I think Tony Self did a pretty extensive report on that area. And so maybe that we could refresh our memories with that. I think that was a while back, maybe 2 years ago.
Okay.
But anyway, so I would be in favor of directing the county staff to work with True North and to come up with some more ideas on locations for us to consider. If is that how it's worded?
Well, if that's just really by consensus, if that's the
Oh,
direction, I think
yeah.
Neil's
I'm
got
sorry.
enough to go on right now.
Yeah.
And so I'm seeing heads nodded here and we'll move forward as such. Neil, clear enough? Okay, very good. Appreciate your time today, Dana. Thank you again for continuing to be a stalwart on this subject in our community.
Thank you so much.
You bet. All right, let's go ahead and jump to item number 19 at this time. Add a statement to the map approving the final map for Eagle Cap rentals and rejecting on behalf of the public a real property offered for dedication for public use in conformity with terms of the offer of dedication, and authorize the clerk of the board supervisors to sign the clerk of the board certificate upon verification of the county treasurer that the statement is true as requested by the assistant county engineer. Good morning, Rosanna. How are you today?
Pretty good. Good morning, board. So today we have the final map for Eagle Cap Rentals, which is a subdivision map on North Bank Road near Sultan Creek, which subdivides 2 parcels into 7, creates 2 private roads, Tidewater Way and Boomerang Drive. And the parcel size are a variety. They go from 2 to 14 acres. None of the proposed improvements are public improvements. There aren't any offers to dedicate that were requested or proposed. And so this is just an approval to be able to record the subdivision or file the map.
Mr. Chairman.
Please.
So Rosanna, tell me, we don't currently have any requirement on roads and bringing roads up to standards. We've run into this with a lot of old subdivisions. I know that are in my district and probably everybody's district, where we end up with private roads. And then the county can't go in and maintain them, and they can't get a homeowners association or a district form to maintain the roads. And then we get a lot of complaints for them. So in future subdivisions, is there anything we can do to make sure that these roads are brought up to a standard so that we don't have to deal with them 10 years down the road or 20 years down the road?
So every road is going to require road maintenance. That's inevitable. On this particular subdivision, because it's part of a major subdivision, it has a road maintenance agreement that's required as a condition of approval. And so when this map is filed, that requirement for road maintenance, the agreement itself, will be recorded simultaneously.
And then who's responsible to make sure that that maintenance is done?
The property owners.
Well, that's the same problem. we got into
And
before.
isn't that the issue with the whole thing? The guy at the end is the one who wants the road maintained, and the guy at the beginning of the road says, "Oh, I don't need it because we'll only go 50 feet on to get there." So there's nobody designated to maintain the road. Is that correct? It's just the property owners, or you're required to maintain the property in front of your property, or who enforces that, or is it enforced?
So the enforcement would be small claims court for the majority of it. That would be the enforcement mechanism.
Been here.
But the road maintenance agreement itself requires, it's similar to CCNRs. It requires them to determine the amount of funding to collect funding typically annually, and put it into a fund and then get together and decide how the funds are going to be spent. The minimum obligation is to maintain the road improvements that were minimally required as a condition of the subdivision. So in this case, these are gravel roads. If they came together as the homeowners and decided to pave it, they could do that, but the minimum will always be the condition of subdivision approval.
Okay, and so who enforces CCRs? Anybody, or is that still go back to small claims court, or?
It would it would be the homeowners association, and then if that wasn't working out, it would be the courts.
Okay, let's go ahead and open it up for public comment.
Chair, I'm not seeing any at this time.
Okay, very good. What's the will of the board on this? Interesting. Yeah, well, we could always table this if you guys need some time to spend on it a little longer.
Yeah, and actually, I don't know if it's ever, I don't ever remember anything coming up exactly like this before me in the years that I've been on the board, to where we, this whole wordage in here, it's just new to me, and
It was kind of confusing to me too.
I'm not sure why we're not, why we're, what was it, for the public, we're not accepting, or the dedications, is that the roads? Is that the part of it that we're not accepting?
Yes, so what happened on this map is we received the Mylar, which is the final copy, and it was missing a statement. And so instead of staff writing it on there before the board took action, we wanted to wait until after the board took action to make sure that we weren't making a mess of the map. And so in this case, this is language that is required by the Subdivision Map Act. And we're just going to put it on the map after it's been approved, so that if for some reason it needed to be different than what we were anticipating, which I don't know what that would be, that we didn't have a mess on the map, because it's been through, it's been notarized, it's been signed by the county surveyor, and there's several signatures that go on this map.
Chair, I just want to say that there is somebody from the public with their hands raised. I don't know if you want to give a moment to speak. Sometimes it takes a little bit to figure out how to raise your hand.
Got it. Please, when you have a chance.
Stuart, you are on. You just need to unmute your mic.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. Hi, my name's Stuart Blanco. I work with Eagle Cap Rentals. I've been working on this project for the last roughly 3 years and working with Roseanne on it. And I guess I'm just here to lend any assurance that the road maintenance, obviously we had a certain criteria we had to meet in order for the map to get to this point, that being 4 inches of base rock compacted to specification, appropriate drainage. The culverts and the bulk of the work is already in place. These subdivision lots will be riverfront, so I imagine those who can afford this type of property would be interested in continuing the maintenance of the road leading to each parcel. The road maintenance agreement, as Rosanna pointed out, is in place. And obviously Tidewater or Eagle Cap will be making the initial deposits as we're attempting to sell lots. So we will establish a bank account and start making deposits per lot that we own, which after approval will be 7 lots in total. And then just carry it forward as we sell lots. Obviously at a certain point, we won't have majority anymore when we sell over 4 lots, but we fully plan to incorporate the framework to allow for a successful execution of road maintenance moving forward.
So does part of that success including a CCR on the deed for a road maintenance fund or something along those lines?
So the CCNRs weren't required as a part of this approval. However, CCNRs is required for the service report that is required to be recorded with the California Department of Real Estate prior to any sale of lots. That's a step we have to take once we have an approved map. So once the map gets approved and recorded, then we move forward with getting the service report with Department of Real Estate. And then not until we complete that application process, can we actually sell lots? So CCNRs will be developed in the future and possibly combined with the road maintenance portion of the agreement. But for now, CCNRs don't exist. But yeah, it's set up in a similar way in that, it's basically a condition of ownership.
Yeah, Stuart, you make some good points. Thanks for that public comment. Is there anything else you want to offer before we move on to any other comments or board discussion?
Not really. I mean, other than, the tentative map approval, we've met all of the, I believe, 19 plus conditions in it. It's been a trying process, to say the least, between logging the area, getting the infrastructure in place. And obviously we have a lot invested in this. Not to say that's why you should approve it, but more so that we've done everything that was required in the preliminary approval. And obviously we're on one of our last extensions. So time is of the essence for approval of this subdivision. Because I think we're on our last extension, and the only reason it's still going to be valid beyond the initial extension is because there was a COVID extension granted automatically with it. So that's about all I have to say.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks.
And so Rosanna, is that the case? They've complied with everything that they were legally required and everything that we asked of them?
Yes, they've met all conditions of approval. I also wanted to point out current and future buyers, if they look at the final map for the subdivision, there's a note specifically referencing the maintenance agreement. So they should know, looking at that map, to go look for that agreement. It won't just be a separate, it is a separate document, but there is a reference on the map to the agreement as well.
And I would move for approval.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second on the table. And with no further public comment, Kylie, could you please pull the vote?
Supervisor Short,
Yes.
Supervisor Berkowitz,
Yes.
Supervisor Starkey,
Yes.
Supervisor Hemmingson,
Yes.
Chair Howard.
Yes. Kylie, I understand Dr. Stutz is with us. I don't want to keep him very long. If he's still with us, could you please go ahead and bring him onto the meeting?
Yes.
Hi there, can you guys hear me?
We can. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Okay, very good. Thanks for joining us, Dr. Stutz. You're a busy man, but we always look forward to these updates. So please kick us off if you can.
Yeah, sorry about my tardiness earlier. But let me just give you a rundown of what happened over the last couple of weeks since we talked last. So more or less, the numbers have tended to sort of level off, COVID numbers in the county. I could say it was an average of somewhere between 20 and 30 and sometimes 40 new cases a day. And you can see that the active cases have sort of leveled off in the low 200s. This has also been reflected, I think, in the numbers at the hospital, where those have leveled off. And even at the end of last week, we even saw a slight decrease in hospitalized patients. And the backlog of patients attempting to get admitted or transferred elsewhere at the hospital from the emergency department also significantly improved. I actually worked this weekend in the emergency department just last night, the night before, and those were the first shifts that I've had in 2 months where the entire emergency department thankfully was not backed up with sick COVID patients waiting to be admitted or transferred. So that was really encouraging. We've actually had a useful emergency department again over the weekend. The numbers in the hospital have, although they dipped a little bit over the late last week, they're remaining about steady. So we still have a hospital full of COVID patients. We just don't have as many. I think we were at maybe 3 as of this morning, 3 ICU level COVID patients. So we now have ICU patients who are not there for reasons of severe COVID, which is again a significant improvement over last week and the previous 2 months. So that's very encouraging. our vaccination rates have gone up, just as you probably saw. If any of you watched the town hall meetings, they've been going up about a little over 1% a week. And that isn't different this week. I think we're at something like 43 or 44% of the population that's vaccinated. We still have help from the state SLS team doing the monoclonal antibody therapy vaccination and testing behind the hospital, and that's been extended through the end of the month. And actually, again, I would point out that we're essentially the only county in California, and that's received this kind of extensive help. It was a timing thing. They had the team ready, and we had the need, and so we were the first to get this response team sent out to our county, and I'm thankful that they've extended that through the end of the month. That also meant that we had some early staffing help at the hospital in terms of nursing staff and respiratory therapists, which is again, since we've had this help over the last month, essentially no other counties have received the level of help that we've got here. And that's because in the meantime, a number of other counties have experienced Delta surges similar to ours. And so they've snapped up what little resources, state resources remained in terms of monoclonal antibody therapy, as well as staffing and help with the hospital. And so those resources aren't available right now, even though they were available to us initially in our first surge. So I was just talking with the other Northern California health officers yesterday afternoon, and they were all kind of jealous that we had gotten this kind of help through the end of the month. And we're all trying to push the state to make this much more common in Northern California. Because I think some of the other counties are going to take over as with higher numbers per capita than Del Norte is seeing. Because we were shortly there for a while, some of the worst. We were the worst county in California in terms of per capita new COVID cases. We did have, I think, a couple of new deaths since last week, but then that's remained about stable. I don't know the status of the mortuary truck. I still think it's being actively used. And my understanding is that they're still greater than their normal capacity. So we probably still need that vehicle in place. And that's about it for a COVID update that I have. Do you guys have any questions?
Yeah, Dr. Stutz, I know on the briefing on Thursday last week, we were hoping to see the count of folks that have passed in our community, not just reflect the hospital numbers, but reflect those that have also been transported out of our community. Does our website now reflect that number of total deaths, including those that have been transported out of our community or those that have not gone to the hospital and passed?
I don't believe so. You're looking for the number of deaths in people that have happened outside the county, is that right?
Correct. So we'd been reporting at the Thursday meetings, just hospital patients that have passed due to COVID-19. And I'm looking at 34 deaths on our county website and want to assure that number reflects an accurate total. So that would be those of the past.
So right. That total actually on the county website includes all comers. So not just the deaths that are reported when the hospital representative speaks on Thursdays, they're giving their own hospital numbers. But when I speak about deaths, I'm giving deaths from in any location. So at any hospital where they've been reported to us.
Yep. Thank you, Dr. Stutz. Yeah, 34 too many. Appreciate it.
Dr. Stutz, this is Valerie Starkey. If I could, Chair, I'm sorry, I didn't even ask.
No,
Yeah,
please.
okay. I really appreciate the updates that you've been putting on the public health website or whoever has been doing that to get the message out. One of the last ones that was up, I think it was put up yesterday, it talked about isolation if you're sick. If you've had a positive test result, here's what to do next. What I'd like to see, and again, I am gonna defer to you, but one of the things that I would like to see is some of the advice that they're giving in this is, to rest, stay home, rest. And I think that individuals should need to contact their individual doctor and that sort of thing. But I think that advice is sometimes, putting some of our residents in a little bit of a precarious situation because we don't necessarily want them to rest. We want them to stand up. We want them to breathe deep. We want them to take action, whatever kind of vitamin cocktail that they can get on. Or is there any way that maybe you can put out a generic thing, or does that put you in a precarious situation to offer that sort of direction?
Yeah, I can certainly offer some direction, especially for people who have been diagnosed in the hospital, but they're not necessarily sick enough to stay in the hospital and they're being sent home. And the hospital itself should and has been, the physicians and the nursing staff there should and have been, giving a pretty extensive advice about what to do at home. A general advice to just rest isn't the end all and be all of what you should be doing at home. That's true. You should be getting up and walking around and expanding your lungs and coughing up, mucus and that sort of stuff, clearing your airway. That's true. There could be much more extensive advice provided about what to do at home, for sure. I think it was more aimed at, I think the word was used in order to encourage people to stay home rather than to necessarily stay in bed.
Yeah, absolutely. Just speaking on behalf of having two people that I care about having it, the worst thing that we could do is have them just rest. So I just want to make sure that the people who choose not to go out and seek medical care, they just get their positive test. I really want to make sure that we're getting the message out to them that just laying down and resting might not be the best thing. So if we could maybe, I don't know how to do that, but it needs to probably come from a doctor and not necessarily their daughter. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Kyle, is there any public comment for Dr. Stutz at this point in time?
Chair, I am not seeing any at this time.
Okay. And we'll bring it back. If there's no more discussion from the board, we'll thank Dr. Stutz for his presentation today and look forward to seeing you again on the 14th and then also at our weekly briefings for our community, which do occur every Thursday. Thank you,
Great.
Dr. Stutz.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, we're going to take a very short recess here for folks and resume the meeting at 12:13.
You don't want to make them all panelists.
Okay, welcome back. We're going to go ahead and take up item number 20 now on our agenda, which is approve and authorize the chair to sign a letter of support for Delaware County Fire Safe Council's application for the 2021 County Coordinators Grant Program as requested by the Assistant County Administrative Officer.
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion and second on the agenda. Kylie, any public comment on this item?
Yes, one moment. Yana, you are on. You just need to unmute your mic.
Good morning, Chair, members of the board, staff. I just want to call in just to say that I'm grateful that you all are working with the Delaware County Fire Safe Council and happy to support them and you all in this application.
Thank you, Yana. Appreciate you weighing in on this. Kylie, other public comment?
I am not seeing any at this time.
Okay, very good. Yeah, staff and UC Cooperative Extension worked very closely to get this to the Fire Safe Council. I know they've been a little understaffed with volunteers here in the last several years, but this is going to be a good opportunity to provide some administrative support through valuable resources and probably get this thing re-engaged. So really appreciate staff's time on this and especially Yana's through UC Cooperative Extension. So do we have a motion on the table? Kylie, please pull the vote.
Supervisor Berkowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Supervisor Hemmingson?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Chair Howard?
Yes. All right, let's move to item number 21, which is approve and authorize the chair to sign and send a letter of support for the local Uncharted Shores Academy to enable the school to purchase the building they currently lease as requested by Supervisor Short. Supervisor Short.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, principal of the Uncharted Shores Academy, Margie Rouge, reached out to me and asked for the board to just seeking that board support for their looking for financing for expansion of their school. Currently, they're using or they're leasing the old St. Joseph's School down there on 4th and E, and she's looking to expand the school and build at the corner of Washington and Northcrest. I thought this was pretty easy to support that school. I had my kids there. I appreciated their philosophy on education, and I hope you will agree with me that we should support this and give parents expanded avenue to educate their kids.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second discussion, further discussion.
Well, I'm curious, this land is now taxed property. And if it goes to Uncharted Shores, then it is not going to be taxed. So that would be.
I don't. Why wouldn't they be taxed?
I don't know. Does it school property? Does it become school property? We don't.
It's a charter school, so it wouldn't be
Still private ownership?
Yeah.
Okay, that was my only question.
Yep. It's the way I understand it.
Okay. Kylie, any public comment?
Chair, I'm not seeing any at this time.
Okay. Well, then since there's none, we'll go ahead and bring it back to the board. We have a motion, a second on the table. Kylie, please pull the vote.
Supervisor Hemmingson?
Yes.
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Supervisor Berkowitz?
Yes.
Chair Howard?
Yes. All right, item number 23 is approve and authorize the chair to sign the stipulation agreement with Miller Enterprises as requested by the assessor.
I think we missed
Mr.
22.
Chairman, I need to recuse myself on both items, number 23 and 24. I do business with the Millers and I have a conflict of interest.
Okay, very good.
I think we missed 22,
Duly noted.
Mr. Chair.
Chair, aren't we taking up item number 22? Am I?
No, that's what I was just saying. I think we skipped 22.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I went. I was going to take up item number 23.
Oh, okay.
I just read that one in, but I just skipped 22.
Oh, okay, that's fine then. Sorry.
Yep.
Sorry,
You get to do that when
Supervisor
you're the
Hemmingson, I
chairman.
was confused.
Yeah, no, that's quite okay. So Supervisor Hemmingson recused himself from item 23 and 24. And so is the assessor with us today? Or do we have a motion on the table?
I'll move to approve that we authorize the chair to sign both stipulation agreements in 23 and 24.
Okay.
Second,
So we have a motion and second on the table. That would be item 24 also, which is approved and authorized the chair to sign the stipulation agreement with Robert and Kara Miller for APN 105-300-106 as requested by the assessor also.
So just to be clear, this is as the Board of Equalization. In item 22, it said adjourn as the Board of Soups.
I see.
So just so like the minutes reflect that this is.
Clear as
now
mud.
As the Board of Equalization.
Okay. Any public comment on items 23 and 24 that we are taking together?
Chair, my Zoom is reconnecting. It kicked me out, so I can't see at this moment.
Okay, well, I guess we'll be patient.
I'm gonna give me one moment. Sorry about that.
There is none. Thank you, Rachel. Appreciate it. Kylie, since there is no public comment on these two items, we have a motion second on the table for 23 and 24. Could you please pull the vote?
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Supervisor Berkowitz?
yes,
Chair Howard?
Yes. All right, I'm gonna go grab Supervisor Hemmingson. I'll be right back. That's good. Like it smells good in there. All right, we're gonna move back to item number 22, which is another Board of Equalization item on the agenda, which is approve the assessment appeal withdrawal application for the regular appeal filed for APN 110-281-11 as requested by the assessor.
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion and second on the table. Kylie, any public comment?
Chair, I'm not seeing any at this time.
Okay, let's go ahead and bring back the board for a vote.
Supervisor Berkowitz?
yes,
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Supervisor Hemmingson?
Yes.
Chair Howard?
Yes, all right, so we'll adjourn from the Board of Equalization and reconvene as the Board of Supervisors and approve and adopt budget transfer 06-20 in the amount of 158,000 and change within the probation budget unit for excess jail expenditures as requested by the Chief Probation Officer. Do we have a motion at this
Move to
time?
approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Kylie, any public comment on that budget transfer?
Chair, I'm not seeing any at this time.
Okay, let's go ahead and pull that vote, please.
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Supervisor Berkowitz?
yes.
Supervisor Hemmingson?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Chair Howard?
Yes. All right, legislative and budget issues, consider miscellaneous legislative and budget matters pertinent to the County of Del Norte. Authorize the chair to sign and send appropriate letters with respect to matters pending before the state and federal governments. Neil, is there anything on our legislative matters that we should be paying attention to at this time?
Nothing today.
Okay, I will report out, and I did reflect upon this briefly in my board report, that we're still waiting for some movement from the Board of Forestry on those fire safe regulations. They still have not taken those up yet, but we do anticipate some comment on them in October. So as soon as I hear something either from RCRC or CSAC, I know Jerry and I will be on that one. Very sticky item for us here in the county. Okay, Kylie, do I have everything?
Yes, Chair.
Okay, well, it was a busy agenda today. Appreciate everybody's patience. It's 12:20, and we're going to go ahead and adjourn until our September 28th, 2021 meeting. Again, please try to attend the Thursdays